Hello guys, David Vos here. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Alabama. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Guys, we were talking about the Zuni Indians and the Hopi. We were talking about the Hopi Indians, but I also mentioned the Zuni Indians because, as I said yesterday on that little walk that we had, the Hopi and the Zuni are related. They are, I think they call them the Pueblo Indian peoples. They are more closely related to the Anasazi, or the ancient ones. And these would go back to peoples that were here before a lot of the Native Americans that we have, the tribes, the Navajo and the Comanche and all of the different Native American peoples that we have today in their various tribes. They all can go back in their memory maybe 400 years. And before that, they call them the ancient ones. And all of the natives have stories of the ancient ones and the creation stories. But the Zuni Indians that we have today, they are just one of 19 tribes that were there originally. And they had lived in that area that we call New Mexico and Arizona today. But the Zuni tribe, I love that so much because the New Mexico flag has a symbol on it. It's really the sun with two lines going vertical and two lines going horizontal, which is what makes up a cross, and also appear to be the radiating light from that sun. And that is what they call their father, or the divine father. And they also believed in a divine mother, which was Mother Earth. And so, like I said, the Zuni tribe, as well as the Hopi tribe, originated from what they call the ancient Puebloans. And they were a group of people that they had lots of land, they had a lot of money and riches and wealth, and they had a lot of distinct cultures and civilization. So the Zuni people are kind of a mysterious tribe, and there's a lot of mystery behind them. This is why I love them, especially not only because I'm going there, and not only also because I had gone to that region and found this oracle stone, and I'd had the whole ordeal of going into behind a military fence in a military base, and I was chased down by Black Hawk helicopters. And so it was quite an experience. But the entire day was full of miracles. And I'll never forget it. Nor will I forget the divine providence that happened to me that day. And the complete miracles that occurred to me on that day. And I knew that the Holy Spirit was with me. And that it was more than just an event in a day that I was experiencing. But it was a rendezvous with destiny. I would like to maybe imagine it as that. I had been given a great gift, and I cherish that gift. And I know that the Heavenly Father has something in mind in that gift for me. And this is why I'm always constantly looking at how the Lord is guiding me in these endeavors, because from the time I was young, I had some run-ins with individuals and peoples that were very mysterious and were always talking to me about the native peoples. And there was a beautiful Native American woman that came to this patriarch when I was a young man, about 17, and this was a very, very old 70-year-old man, the patriarch of the Mormon Church. And he came to me, and I didn't know anything about the Mormons or their beliefs. Didn't know that some of them, I guess, had visions and leave their bodies and go unto yonder places. And this very old and wise man he took me aside and said that a young Native American woman kept coming to him in his dreams and saying that I would do something great in the latter days. So I've been very interested, shall we say, in the Native American peoples, especially around New Mexico, where I lived for 18 years. And by providence, this year sometime, I was able to purchase this 5-acre piece of land right in smack dab in the middle of this Zuni Indian homeland. But these Zuni peoples, they're not just mysterious, but they're like recluses. They're very isolated, which I like. And they don't trust government or much of anything about this world, which I don't either. So I feel very akin to them. And their culture is kind of that isolated, and just as their language is mysterious and isolated. And they're very interesting people. Like I said the other day, I've met them, and I find them to be very beautiful people and very interesting. Their artwork is completely amazing and beautiful. They do sculptures and dish pottery and stuff, which I find fascinating. But they're one of the very few peoples that have managed to keep their way of life pretty much the same throughout the years. No matter what the West or modern man or the European colonizers did, they never lost who they were. But their beliefs, we don't want to confuse our thought words, our descriptions of existence as the same as theirs. Like we say their religion. Well, they didn't have religion. So we can't say what their religion was, because they did have beliefs, but it was not anything like what we would call religion. But they did have beliefs, and it was kind of centered around ceremonies of fertility. They would dance so that it would rain. And they would have some kind of ritual dances, which had these cycles within a year. And they would put masks on, and they would dance and sing to their deities. Well, they called them spirits, kachinas. The kachinas were the original spirits that were manifested, shall we say. And the greatest of those went up and became the sun. So I want to kind of give you the story of the Zuni peoples, that along with the Hopi, who could be, or the Pueblo Indians, these could be some of the oldest peoples that we have any contact with here in the United States, in North America. As you're going down in through Mexico, we have the Aztecs and the Olmecs, and you go further down with the Mayans, the others in South America. But up here in the North America, these are the people that we need to go and talk to and find the ancient ways. And they talk about a time before, in the beginning, in the new making, the new creation. And it was where the All-Father was, who was all alone. He had his existence through the ages, and then there was nothing else except black darkness. Before the beginning of the new making, the new creation, the All-Father, Father alone, had being through the ages. There was nothing else except black darkness. In the beginning, the new making, the All-Father, Father thought outward in space, and mists were created and uplifted. Thus through his knowledge he made himself the Son, who was thus created and is the great Father, and the dark spaces brightened with light. The cloud mist thickened and became water. The Son Father created the seed stuff of worlds from his flesh, and he himself rested upon the waters. And these two, the fourfold containing Earth Mother and the all-covering Sky Father, the surpassing beings with the power of changing their forms, even as smoke changes in the wind, were the Father and the Mother of the soul beings. Then, as man and woman spoke, these two together, "Behold," said Earth Mother, as a great terraced bowl appeared at hand, and within it was water. "Then shall be the home of my tiny children. On the rim of each world country in which they wander, terraced mountains shall stand, making in one region many mountains, by which one country shall be known from another." Then she spat on the water and struck it and stirred it with her fingers. Foam gathered about the terraced rim, mountain higher and higher. Then with her warm breath she blew across the terraces. White flecks of foam broke away and floated over the water, but the cold breath of Sky Father shattered the foam, and it fell down in fine mist and it sprayed. The Earth Mother spoke then, "Even so shall white clouds float up from the great waters at the borders of the world, and clustering about the mountain terraces of the horizon shall be broken and hardened by cold. Then will they shed downward in rain spray, the water of life, even into the holy, hollow places of my lap. For in my lap shall nestle our children, mankind and creature kind, for warmth in thy coldness." So even now the trees on high mountains near the clouds and Sky Father crouch low toward the earth, toward Earth Mother for warmth and protection. Warm is Earth Mother, cold is the Sky Father. Then Sky Father said, "Even so, yet I too will be helpful to our children." Then he spread his hand out with the palm downward, and into the wrinkles of his hand he set the semblance of shining yellow corn grains. In the dark of the early world dawn, they gleamed like sparks of fire. "See," he said, pointing to the 7 grains between his thumb and forefingers, "our children shall be guided by these when the Sun Father is not near, and thy terraces are as darkness itself. Then shall our children be guided by lights." So Sky Father created the stars. And then he said, "Even as these grains gleam up from the water, so shall seed grain like them spring up from the earth when touched by water to nourish our children." And thus they created the seed corn, and in many other ways they devised for their children, the soul beings. But the first children in a cave of the earth were unfinished. The cave was of sooty blackness, black as a chimney at night time, and foul. Loud became their murmurings and lamentations until many sought to escape, growing wiser and more manlike. But the earth was not then as we now see it. Then Sun Father sent down 2 sons, sons also of the foam cap, the beloved twain, or the twin brothers of light, yet elder and younger, the right and the left, like to question and answer in deciding and doing. To them the Sun Father imparted his own wisdom. He gave them the great cloud bow, and for arrows the thunderbolts of our 4 quarters. For buckler they had the fog-making shield, spun and woven of the floating clouds and spray. The shield supports its bearer, as clouds are supported by the wind, yet hides its bearer also. And he gave them the fathership and control of men and of all creatures. Then the beloved twain, with their great cloud bow, lifted the Sky Father into the vault to the skies, that the earth might become warm and fitter for men and creatures. Then, along the sun-seeking trail, they sped to the mountains westward. With magic knives, they spread open the depths of the mountain and uncovered the cave in which dwelt the unfinished men and creatures. So they dwelt with men, learning to know them and seeking to lead them out. Now there were great growing things in the depths, like grasses and vines. So the beloved twain breathed on the stems, growing tall toward the light, as the grass is wont to do, making them stronger, and twisting them upward until they formed a great ladder by which men and creatures ascended to a second cave. Up the ladder into the second cave world, men and the beings crowded, following closely the two little but mighty ones. Yet many fell back and were lost in the darkness. They peopled the underworld, from which they escaped in their aftertime, amid terrible earth-shakings. In the second cave it was dark as the night of a stormy season, but larger of space and higher. Here again men and the beings increased, and their complainings grew loud. So the twain again increased the growth of the ladder, and again led men upward, not all at once, but in 6 bands, to become the fathers of the 6 kinds of men: the yellow, the tawny gray, the red, the white, the black, and the mingled. And this time also many were lost or left behind. Now the third great cave was larger and lighter, like a valley in starlight. And again they increased in number, and again the two led them out into a 4th cave. Here it was like a light dawning, and men began to perceive and to learn variously, according to their natures. Wherefore the twain taught them first to seek the Sun Father. Then, as the last cave became filled with men, learned to understand, the two led them forth again into the great upper world, which is the world of knowing and seeing. But after long ages of wandering, the precious seed things rested over the middle at Zuni. And men turned their hearts to the cherishing of their corn and the corn maidens, instead of warring with strange men. But there was a complaint by the people of the customs followed. Some said the music was not that of the olden time. Far better was that which of nights they had often heard as they wandered up and down the river trail. Wonderful music, liquid voices in caverns, or the echo of women's laughter in water vases. And the music was timed with a deep-toned drum, boom, 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 from the mountain of thunder. Others thought the music was that of the ghosts of ancient men, but it was far more beautiful than the music when danced the corn maidens. Others said light clouds rolled upward from the grotto in Thunder Mountain, like to the mist that leave behind them the dew. But lo, even as they faded, the bright garments of the rainbow women might be seen fluttering, and the embroidery and paintings of these dancers of the mist were more beautiful than the costumes of the corn maidens. Then the priests of the people said, it may well be Peayatuma, the liquid voice, his flute, and the flutes of his players. Now, when the time of ripening corn was near, the fathers ordered preparation for the dance of the corn maidens. They sent the 2 master priests of the bow to the grotto at Thunder Mountain, saying, if you behold Peayatuma and his maidens, perhaps they will give us the help of their customs. Then, up the river trail, the priests heard the sound of a drum and strains of a song. It was Peayatuma and his 7 maidens, the maidens of the House of Stars, sisters of the corn maidens. The deity of dawn and music lifted his flute and took its place in the line of dancers. The drum sounded until the cavern shook as with thunder. The flutes sang and sighed as the wind in the wooden canyon, while still the storm is distant. White mists floated up from the wands of the maidens, above which fluttered the butterflies of Summerland, about the dress of the rainbows in the strange blue light of the night. Then Peayatuma, smiling, said, go the way before, telling the fathers of our custom, and straightway we will follow. Soon the sound of music was heard, coming up from the river, and soon the flute people and the singers and maidens of the flute danced. Up rose the fathers and all the watching people, greeting the deity of dawn with outstretched hand and offering a prayer. Then the singers took their places and sounded their drum, flutes, and song of clear waters, while the maidens of the dew danced their flute dance. Greatly marveled the people, when from the wands they bore forth came white clouds, and fine cool mist descended. When the dance was ended, and the dew maidens had retired, out came the beautiful mothers of corn. And when the players of the flute saw them, they were enamored of their beauty, and gazed upon them so intently that the maidens let fall their hair and cast down their eyes. And jealous and bolder grew the mortal youths, and in the morning dawn in rivalry. The dancers sought all too freely the presence of the corn maidens, no longer holding them so precious as in the olden time. And the matrons, intent on the new dance, heeded not else. But behold, the mist increased greatly, surrounding dancers and watchers alike, until within them the maidens of corn, all in white garments, became invisible. Then sadly and noiselessly they stole in amongst the people, and laid their corn wands down amongst the trays, and laid their white embroidered garments thereupon, as mothers lay soft kilting over their babies. Then, even as the mist became, they, and with the mist drifting, fled away to the far south summerland. Now the priest, who was named Yana-Luha, carried ever in his hand a staff, which now in the daylight was plumed and covered with feathers, yellow, blue-green, red, white, black, and varied. Attached to it were shells, which made a song like kind of a tinkle. The people, when they saw it, stretched out their hands and asked many questions. Then the priest balanced it in his hand, and struck with it a hard place, and blew upon it. Amid the plumes appeared 4 round things. Mere eggs they were. 2 were blue, like the sky, and 2 dun red, like flesh of the earth mother. Then the people asked many questions. These, said the priest, are the seed of living beings. Choose which you will follow. From 2 eggs shall come beings of beautiful plumage, colored like the grass and fruits of summer. Where they fly and ye follow shall always be summer. Without toil, fields of food shall flourish, and from the other 2 eggs shall come evil beings, piebald with white without colors. And where these 2 shall fly, ye shall follow. Winter strives with summer. Only by labor shall the fields yield fruit, and your children and theirs shall strive for the fruits. Which do you choose? The blue, cried the people, and those who were strongest carried off the blue eggs, leaving the red eggs to those who waited. They laid the blue eggs with much gentleness in soft sand on the sunny side of a hill, watching day by day. And they were precious of color. Surely they would be the precious birds of the summer land. Then the eggs cracked, and the birds came out with open eyes and pin feathers under their skin. We chose wisely, said the people. Yellow and blue, red and green are their dresses, even seen through their skins. So they fed them freely of all the food which men favor. Thus they taught them to eat all desirable food. But when the feathers appeared, they were black with white bandings. They were ravens, and they flew away croaking hoarse laughs and mocking our fathers. But the other eggs became beautiful macaws, and were wafted by a toss of the priest's wand to the faraway summer land. So those who had chosen the raven became the raven people. They were the winter people, and they were many and strong. But those who had chosen the macaw became the macaw people. They were the summer people, and few in number and less strong, but they were wiser because they were more deliberate. The priest Yana-Luha, being wise, became their father, even as the sun father is among the little moons of the sky. He and his sisters were the ancestors of the priest keepers of things. Now the twain beloved and the priest fathers gathered in council for the naming and selecting of man groups and creature kinds and things. So they called the people of the southern space the children of summer, and those who loved the sun most became the sun people. Others who loved the water became the toad people, or the turtle people, or the frog people. Others loved the seeds of the earth and became the seed people, or the people of the first growing grass, or the tobacco people. Those who loved warmth were the fire or badger people. According to their natures, they chose the totems. And so also did the people of winter, or the people of the north. Some were known as the bear people, or the coyote people, or the deer people. Others are the crane people, turkey people, the grouse people. So the badger people dwelt in a warm place, even as the badgers on the sunny side of hills burrow, finding a dwelling amongst the dry roots whence is fire. 8 years was but 4 days and 4 nights, when the world was new. While such days and nights continued, men were led out in the night shine of the world of seeing. For even when they saw the great star, they thought it the Sun Father himself. It so burned their eye. Men and creatures were more alike then than now. Our fathers were black, like the caves they came from. Their skin was cold and scaly, like those of mud creatures. Their eyes were goggled like an owl's. Their ears were like those of cave bats. Their feet were webbed like those of walkers in wet and soft places. Their tails long or short, as they were old or young. Men crouched when they walked or crawled along the ground like lizards. They feared to walk straight, but crouched as before they had in their cave worlds, that they might not stumble or fall in an uncertain light. When the morning star arose, they blinked excessively when they beheld its brightness, and cried out that now surely the Father was coming. But it was only the elder of the bright ones, heralding with his shield of flame the approach of the Sun Father. And when low down in the east the Sun Father himself appeared, though shrouded in the midst of the world waters, they were blinded and heated by his light and glory. They fell down wallowing and covered their eyes with their hands and arms. Yet ever as they looked toward the light, they struggled toward the sun, as moths and other night creatures seek the light of a campfire. Thus they became used to the light, but when they rose and walked straight, no longer bending, and looked upon each other, they sought to clothe themselves with girdles and garments of bark and rushes. And when by walking only upon their hinder feet they were bruised by stone and sand, they plaited sandals of yucca fiber. As it was with the first men and creatures, so it was with the world. It was young and unripe. Earthquakes shook the world and rent it. Demons and monsters of the underworld fled forth. Creatures, fierce beasts of prey, and others turned timid, becoming their quarry. Wretchedness and hunger abounded, and black magic. Fear was everywhere among them, so the people in dread of their precious possessions became wanderers, living on the seeds of grass, eaters of dead and slain things, yet guided by the beloved twain. They sought in the light and under the pathway of the sun, the middle of the world, over which alone they could find the earth at rest. When the tremblings grew still for a time, the people paused at the first of sitting places, yet they were still poor and defenseless and unskilled, and the world still moist and unstable, and demons and monsters fled from the earth in times of shaking and threatened wanderers. Then the two took counsel of each other. The elder said, "The earth must be made more stable for men, and the valleys where their children rested. If they sent down their fire bolts of thunder aimed at all the 4 regions, the earth would heave up and down. Fire would belch over the world and burn it. Floods of hot water would sweep over it. Smoke would blacken the daylight, but the earth would at last be safer for men." So the beloved twain let fly the thunderbolts. The mountains shook and trembled. The plains cracked and crackled under the floods and fires, and the hollow places, the only refuge of men and creatures, grew black and awful. At last thick rain fell, putting out the fires. Then water flooded the world, cutting deep trails through the mountains and burying or uncovering the body of things and beings. When they huddled together and were blasted thus, their blood gushed forth and flowing deeply, here in rivers, there in floods, for gigantic they were. But the blood was charred and blistered and blackened by the fires into the black rocks of the lower mesas. There were vast plains of dust, ashes, and cinders, reddened like the mud of the hearth place. Yet many places behind and between the mountain terraces were unharmed by the fires, and even then green grew the trees and grasses, and even flowers bloomed. Then the earth became more stable and drier, and its lone places less fearsome, since monsters of prey were changed to rock. But ever and again the earth trembled, and the people were troubled. "Let us again seek the middle," they said. So they traveled far eastward, and their second stopping place, the place of bare mountains. Again the world rumbled, and they traveled into a country to a place called Where Tree Boles Stand in the midst of the waters. There they remained long, saying, "This is the middle." They built homes there. At times they met people who had gone before, and thus they learned war. And many strange things happened there, as told in speeches of the ancient talk. Then when the earth groaned again, the twain bade them go forth, and they murmured. Many refused and perished miserably in their own homes, as do the rats in the falling trees or flies in forbidden food. But the greater numbers went forward until they came to steam mist in the midst of the waters, and they saw the smoke of men's hearth fires and many houses scattered over the hills before them. When they came nearer, they challenged the people rudely, demanding who they were and why there, for they had had a torch of war in their last standing place. "We are the people of the seed," said the men of the hearth fires, "born elders, brothers of ye, and led of the gods." "No," said our fathers, "we are led of the deities, and we are the seed people. Long lived the people in the town on the sunrise slope of the mountains of Kalayuan, until the earth began to groan warningly again. Loath were they to leave the place of the Kaka and the lake of their dead. But the rumbling grew louder, and the twain beloved called, and all together they journeyed eastward, seeking once more the place of the middle. But they grumbled amongst themselves, so when they came to a place of great promise, they said, 'Let us stay here. Perhaps it may be the place of the middle.' So they built houses there, larger and stronger than ever before, and more perfect, for they were strong in numbers and wiser. Though yet unperfected as men, they called the place of the sacred stealing. Long they dwelt there, happily, but growing wiser and stronger, so that with their tails and dressed in the skins of animals, they saw they were rude and ugly. In chase or in war, they were at disadvantage, for they met older nations of men with whom they fought. No longer they feared the deities and monsters, but only their own kind. So therefore the deities called a council. 'Changed shall ye be, O our children,' cried the twain. 'Ye shall walk straight in the pathways, clothed in garments and without tails, that ye may sit more straight in council, and without webs to your feet or talons on your hands.' So the people were arranged in procession like dancers, and the twain with their weapons and fires of lightning shored off the forelocks hanging down over their faces, severed the talons, and slit the webbed fingers and toes. Sore was the wounding, and loud cried the foolish, when lastly the people were arranged in procession for the raising of their tails. But those who stood at the end of the line, shrinking further and further, fled in their terror, climbing trees and high places with loud chatter, wandering far, sleeping ever in treetops. In the faraway summer land, they are sometimes seen of far walkers, long of tail and long-handed, like weazened men-children. But the people grew in strength and became more perfect, and more than ever went to war. They grew vain. They had reached the place of the middle, they said. 'Let us not wearily wander again, even though the earth tremble and the twain bid us forth.' And even as they spoke, the mountain trembled and shook, though far-sounding. But as people changed, the twain also changed, small and mishappen, hard-favored and unyielding of will, strong of spirit, evil and bad. They taught the people to war and led them far eastward. At last the people neared in the midst of the plains to the eastward, great towns built in the heights. Great were the fields and possessions of the people, for they knew how to command and carry the waters, bringing new soil, and this too without hail or rain. So our ancients, hungry with long wandering for new food, were the more greedy and often gave battle. It was here that ancient women of the elder people, who carried her heart in her rattle and was deathless of wounds in the body, led the enemy, crying out shrilly. So it fell out ill for our fathers, For moreover thunder raged and confused their warriors. Rain descended and blinded them, stretching their bowstrings of sinew and quenching the flight of their arrows as flight of bees is quenched by the sprinkling plume of the honey hunter. But they devised bowstrings of yucca, and the two little ones sought the counsel of the Sun Father, who revealed the life secret of the ancient women and the magic powers over the underfires of the dwellers of the mountains, so that our enemy in the mountain town was overmastered. And because our people found in that great town some hidden deep in the cellars, and pulled them out as rats are pulled from the hollow cedar, and found them blackened by the fumes of their war magic, yet wiser than the common people, they spared them and received them into their next of kin of the black-horn. But the tremblings and the warnings still sounded, and the people searched the stable middle. Now they called a great council of men, and the beast, birds, and insects of all kinds. After a long council it was said, "Where is the water skate? He has 6 legs, all very long. Perhaps he can feel with them to the utmost of the 6 regions and point out the very middle." So water skate was summoned, but lo, it was the Sun Father in his likeness which appeared. And he lifted himself to the zenith and extended his finger feet to all the 6 regions. So they touched the north, the great waters, and to the northeast the waters above, and to the southwest the waters below. But to the north his finger foot grew cold, so he drew it in. Then gradually he settled down upon the earth and said, "Where my heart rests, mark a spot, and build a town of the midmost, for there shall be the midmost place of the earth mother." And his heart rested over the middle of the plain and the valley of Zuni. And when he drew in his finger legs, lo, there were the trail roads leading out and in like stays of a spider's nest, into and from the midpost place he had covered. Here, because of their good fortune in finding the stable middle, the priest father called the town the abiding place of happy fortune. Like many other indigenous tribes of the United States, the Zuni believed in magic, witchcraft. For the Zuni, the belief in witchcraft goes back to the earliest times, including the Zuni creation myths. According to the oral tradition, a pair of witches came up from the underworld, bringing the people 2 gifts: death to keep the world from becoming overcrowded, and corn to feed the people. Magical powers were not always differentiated as good or evil, with the people using their magical skills for several purposes. In fact, the concept of a witch was tied to the concepts of life and a human origin, with the people believing that witches existed alongside humans and not apart from their living beings. Thus, they were not supernatural. The Tiwa believed that witches accompany people daily and are defined as those of a different breath. However, they had a different physical and spiritual existence, not like common humans. Rather, they had to live on the unexpired lives of their victims by capturing or indoctrinating their souls. Further, they had to continually kill or perish themselves. Now here are some Native American proverbs and wisdom. They are not dead who live in the hearts, they live behind. All plants are our brothers and sisters. They talk to us, and if we listen, we can hear them. Day and night cannot dwell together. It is better to have less thunder in the mouth and more lightning in the hand. Tell me, and I'll forget. Show me, I may not remember. Involve me, and I'll understand. Before eating, always take time to thank the food. Don't be afraid to cry. It will free your mind of sorrowful thoughts. When we show our respect for other living things, they respond with respect for us. If we wonder often, the gift of knowledge will come. Most of us do not look as handsome to others as we do to ourselves. And those that lie down with dogs get up with fleas. In age, talk. In childhood, tears. We always return to our first love. And what is life? It is the flesh of the firefly in the night. It is the breath of the buffalo in the wintertime. It is a little shadow which runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset. When you were born, you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. Those who have 1 foot in the canoe and 1 foot in the boat are going to fall into the river. And the weakness of the enemy makes our strength. When the white men discovered this country, Indians were running it. No taxes, no debt. Women did all the work. White men thought he could improve on the system like this. A good soldier is a poor scout. Poverty is a noose that strangles humility and breeds disrespect for the divine person and the man. We will be known forever by the tracks we leave. Do not judge your neighbor until you walk 2 moons in his moccasins. There is nothing as eloquent as a rattlesnake tail. Force, no matter how concealed, begets resistance. Our first teacher is our own heart. Everyone who is successful must have dreamed of something. All who have died are equal. Remembering that your children are not your own, but are lent to you by the Creator. One rain does not make a crop. Man's laws change with the understanding of man. Only the laws of the Spirit remain always the same. What the people believe is true. Anishinaabe, you already possess everything necessary to become great. There is no death, only a change of worlds. Life is not separate from death. It only looks that way. You can't wake a person who is pretending to be asleep. It is less of a problem to be poor than to be dishonest. One finger cannot lift a pebble. Beware of the man who does not talk, and the dog that does not bark. All dreams spins out of the same web. Old age is not as honorable as death, but most people want it. Even a small mouse has anger. If a man is as wise as a serpent, he can afford to be as harmless as a dove. Treat the earth well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. The rainbow is a sign from him who is in all things. Walk lightly in the spring. Mother Earth is pregnant. When a man moves away from nature, his heart becomes hard. Everything the power does, it does in a circle. A brave man dies but once, a coward many times. A man or woman with many children have many homes. Seek wisdom, not knowledge. Knowledge is the past. Wisdom is the future. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. A good chief gives, he does not take. Coyote is always out there waiting, and coyote is always hungry. Listening to a liar is like drinking warm water. Every animal knows more than you do. And to touch the earth is to have harmony with nature. When a fox walks lame, the old rabbit jumps. Many have fallen with the bottle in their hand. A starving man will eat with the wolf. A danger foreseen is half avoided. The coward shoots with shut eyes. It is easy to be brave from a distance. The bird who is eaten cannot fly with the bird that is hungry. Ask questions from your heart, and you will be answered from the heart. A hungry stomach makes a short prayer. Do not wrong or hate your neighbor, for it is not he that you wrong, but yourself. Make my enemy brave and strong, so that if defeated, I'll not be ashamed. Cherish youth, but trust old age. Sharing and giving are always of the Divine One. We are all one child springing through Mother Sky, and each person is his own judge. We are made from Mother Earth, and we go back to Mother Earth. It is no longer good enough to cry peace. We must act peace, live peace, and live in peace. There are many good moccasin tracks along the trail of a straight arrow. A rocky vineyard does not need a prayer, but a pickaxe. With all things and in all things we are relatives. The one who tells the stories rules the world. The frog does not drink up the pond in which he lives. And a people without a history is like a wind over buffalo grass. The moon is not shamed by the barking of dogs. Regard heaven as your father, and the earth as your mother, and all things as your brothers and sisters. White men have too many chiefs. If a man is to do something more than human, he must have more than human powers. The soul would have no rainbow if the eye had no tears. Wisdom comes only when you stop looking for it and start living the life the Creator intended for you. Not every sweet root gives birth to sweet grass. Take only what you need and leave the land as you found it. It takes 1,000 voices to tell a single story. Don't let yesterday use up too much of today. No river can return to its source, yet all rivers must have a beginning. Listen, or your tongue will make you deaf. Man has responsibility, not power. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. Every bird loves to hear himself sing. The way of the troublemaker is thorny. The Divine One gives us each a song. A man must make his own arrows. After dark, all cats are leopards. When you die, you will be spoken of as those in the sky, like the stars. Friend, do it this way. That is, whatever you do in life, do the very best you can, with both your heart and your mind. And if you do it that way, the power of the universe will come to your assistance, if your heart and mind are in unity. When one sits in the hoop of the people, one must be responsible, because all of creation is related, and the hurt of one is the hurt of all. The honor of one is the honor of all. And whatever we do affects everything in the universe. If you do it that way, that is, if you truly join your heart and mind as one, whatever you ask for, that's the way it's going to be. These are the Native American 10 Commandments. Number 1, treat the earth and all that dwell therein with respect. Number 2, remain close to the Great Spirit. And number 3, show great respect for your fellow beings. Number 4, work together for the benefit of all mankind. Number 5, give assistance and kindness whenever needed. Number 6, do what you know to be right. 7, look after the well-being of mind and body. And 8, dedicate a share of your efforts to the greater good. Number 9, be truthful and honest at all times. And number 10, take full responsibility for your actions. Well, friends, we have concluded the broadcast for today. And I hope you guys really enjoyed that. Well, I did. And after listening to that and hearing that, I'm more endeared to the Zuni people than I ever have been before. And I really feel something inside that says this is it. This is what it. I don't know if there is a way of life that would be perfect, or if we could just find a good life, something where human beings, while they live on this plane of existence, shall we say, in this situation with this human flesh and the world in its glory as it is, without any advancement at all. For as long as the earth shall stand and the sun shall shine and the blue sky shall prevail around the globe, and as long as there are individuals that are still here living, striving to populate this world and enjoy the world and perpetuate existence here, I can't think of a better system than this. And by the way, I really like those last commandments. I mean, I'm not a person who likes any kind of commandments. I'm not a commandment person. I don't like to be told what to do. But remember, it's just a word. Because these aren't commandments at all. There's no thou shalt not, or we're going to throw you into the, dungeon. It's nothing like that. It's simply positive affirmations of what we should be trying to strive for. And I love that. But, it's like some of the little phrases in their wisdom section, a little bit like maybe Proverbs or even the New Testament. I noticed a few things in there that the native people say that it's almost word for word right out of the New Testament. And I really, really appreciate this way of life. I definitely want to get to know the Zuni people, especially since I'm moving out there right in the middle of their allotted nation in New Mexico. And if there's anybody out there that happens to know anyone from the Zuni Indian tribes, or someone who could get a hold of someone that would be interested in communicating with me about, their customs and beliefs and whatever I can learn, and whether or not it'd be possible to even, be allowed to, I would even want to, if possible, join their tribe. That's how I feel about it at this point. But anyway, I'm almost up to an hour now, and I'm going to go ahead and close this video today and pray that you guys have a wonderful evening, and may the Lord bless you, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.